Hi, welcome to the Hamstring Flexibility Clinic. If you're new to Acroyoga, you might not have very flexible hamstrings. And if you want a base, being able to bend to 90 degrees, and maybe a little bit more, is really important. You can compensate for lack of hamstring flexibility a little bit by rolling up a yoga mat and putting it under your lower back. However, to really have fun with acroyoga and to be able to do much in basing, you have to get flexible hamstrings. And this hamstring flexibility clinic is going to offer you some options for how you can work on that in between when you come to class. The first exercise is kind of a forward fold, like a more traditional stretch. However, we want to focus more on awareness rather than brute force stretching. In stretching, there's a thing called the edge. And you feel the edge when you're at the end of your stretch and when things feel really intense. And when you're at the edge, all this intensity kind of overwhelms your awareness. And so it's sometimes a good idea to come a little bit back to where you're just away from your edge. And then you can use awareness in your body. So we're going to give you a visual. You can just come into a forward fold. You keep your legs straight. And your hands reach down. You can do it with me. Your hands reach down however far as you can reach. Right now, like about here is when I feel intensity. So I want to come a little bit away from the intensity so that I can actually feel things. And when I started doing this, in the beginning, when I started doing acroyoga, I noticed an interesting thing. Actually, the limit didn't come from my hamstrings, but it came from my butt. There were like muscles I was holding, and just by going a little out of the intensity, I could body scan and feel for where I'm holding, and I could consciously release muscles. And then sometimes it would end up back at the edge, and it would like kind of back out of it. So I can body scan a little more, and by creating awareness, I could find more and more muscles to release and get more and more of a forward fold. So you want to take your time here, like you can spend a minute here. For the case of this video, we're going to cut it short now. Another great thing to do for flexibility is elephant walking. It's using active stretching. Elephant walking is, you kind of go into your forward fold. You start lifting one heel, and you put it down, you lift the other heel and put it down, and notice how each side of the leg kind of goes out of the stretch. And I've noticed when I do these, I tend to get like another inch or so, and I've also seen this with other people. And nice. You want to do this longer, but we're gonna cut short for the video. Another really interesting thing are P and F stretches. They work with your nervous system. Basically, a lot of stretching, every muscle has an antagonist. So if my bicep contracts, it causes a bend, and my tricep extends. When my tricep contracts, my bicep extends. And so in your nervous system, in your brain, there's these things where when you contract your bicep, your brain is sending messages to relax to your tricep. And so we can kind of hook into this little trickery to tell our hamstrings to relax a little bit more. And this is how we do it. You're gonna have a friend go into a forward fold. They go kind of to their end reach. You're gonna put a hand on their upper back, and you're gonna ask them to push into your hand. So this is basically using the hamstrings. And they don't need to push hard. They only need to hold the pressure enough to activate the muscle. Like push a little bit more. Nice. And we're going to hold this for like 7-10 seconds. It's enough for the brain to start sending relax impulses. A little more. And relax. And then push up against me again. Just use your legs, not the hands to push. And we're going to hold this again. And like 3 more seconds. and relax. Nice. Cool. Very nice, Isabella. And you can do this like for 3-4 rounds, and most people notice they can go a little further each time. These are the exercises. I want to give you a little bit of background on what's happening, because mental attitude can help a lot. A lot of people think you get more flexibility by like stretching the muscle apart, and that there's something in the muscles that has to lengthen. However, a lot of flexibility comes more from the brain. Your brain has a certain range for the muscle where it thinks it's safe. And once it's past that safe range, the brain is going to say, this is no longer safe. And it's going to kind of stop you from going further. If you take flexibility classes, there are a lot of techniques and ways to work with this, where you can work with the mind to tell your mind, like, hey, it's actually safe to go a little bit further. And it's actually safe to go a little bit further. I've been in a 5-hour flexibility class where super flexible people came, and the instructor could just talk to them, and they gained inches like literally in seconds in flexibility. That's kind of like a nice preview. I want to leave on a final note. You should do these stretches at the end of your acro session, because these stretches, they kind of weaken your muscle temporarily. It'll help them long term. But you don't really want to do an intense stretching session when they're weakened and then do something like acro, because you might injure yourself.